Well, thank you, and thanks, Matt, for that overview on the budgets and levies, etc. Now, I'm going to speak today about the role of the committee and also the role of capital. Now, can everybody hear me okay? I'm not just using microphones. All good? Okay, the Body Corporate Committee is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the Body Corporate. And basically it's there to ensure that the common property and structural elements within a building format plan are in a state of good repair at all times. That's primarily why the Body Corporate exists. All right? Now, the duties of the committee will include they must act in the best interest of all owners, they've got to oversee the operations of the Body Corporate, they instruct and work very closely with Body Corporate management companies such as Capital, they carry out the Body Corporate's lawful instructions, and with maintenance, they also do a fair bit of that, but we'll talk about that at length later this morning, if that's okay. Now, the committee are bound by a statutory code. You can actually view this, the committee code of conduct on the Capital website. You just go into our resource centre, go to codes of conduct, and we'll detail what the committees must act by. Primarily, they must be seen to be acting reasonably and have an understanding of the Body Corporate and Community Management Act 1997, and always act in the best interests of all owners. Now, you might know this, but Capital is also a member of the committee automatically, but in a non-voting capacity, as is the resident unit manager. We don't have any voting rights on the committee, but we are automatically on there. Now, the manager duties, that's Capital's duties. We'll definitely talk about this in greater depth later during this presentation. But basically, we carry out functions of the committee, administration of the bank account, issue the levy notices, as Matt was saying, prepare and send notice of meetings and minutes. Now, the committee, when a Body Corporate management company is engaged, the committee can't delegate its ability to make decisions through that agreement. At the end of the day, Capital can only take instruction from the committee or the Body Corporate in its totality, depending on the issue at hand. But we have no capacity to make any decisions on behalf of the Body Corporate. The committee does absolutely remain responsible for making decisions and instructing the Body Corporate management company. Now, as I said, the committee's primary function is to make decisions to enable efficient and effective management of the duties of the Body Corporate. And as I said earlier, and you'll probably hear me say this a few times during this chat, is that it's absolutely critical that we must understand that the Body Corporate is charged with maintaining the common property, and in a building format plan, we'll talk about the variations in format plans later, the structural elements of the scheme in a state of good repair at all times. That's absolutely critical. Now, the committee does have powers to make decisions, but it's limited by certain factors. The legislation describes that for items of repair and maintenance, the committee has a spend limit of $200 per lot. Now, that can be adjusted at a general meeting, but in reality, most bodies will still work on the 200 lot, and that's for $200 per lot. Now, that's for repairs and maintenance. The committee does have an authorised spend limit of $300 per lot if they want to make improvements to the common property. So there's two separate issues. There's repair and maintenance, which is captured by the $200 a lot, and then if they want to make an improvement to the common property, then they can spend up to $300 per lot. If the improvement is going to be over that, there's a couple of other limits between there and $2,000 a lot. You've got to go to a general meeting for ordinary resolution. If it's over $2,000 a lot, you've got to do it by special resolution. The committee is also restricted on making certain decisions. They can't fix or change levies. They can't impose a financial burden on an owner. They can't change the rights, privileges or obligations of lot owners. And you might ask, how do committees actually make decisions? How do they make things happen? Technically, there are only two ways that a committee can actually make a formal resolution. That is at a formal committee meeting, which requires 7 days written notice to all owners, a copy of the agenda, what the committee is going to be discussing, etc. The only other way they can do it is what we call a voting outside of the committee meeting process. That's where it's done by a postal vote. So rather than have a formal meeting where they all sit down and talk, something might come up, somebody wants a pet application, for example. So rather than go through the whole process of calling a formal meeting, they'll do it by this bottom or voting outside the committee meeting process. The owners still get made aware of that. They get a copy of what the committee is going to be voting on, but the owners don't get a chance to vote on it. The committee members do. They circle their votes, flick it back to us. We then advise the applicant of the formal resolution of the committee. And the provisions for this are definitely set out by the regulation modules. And you all understand how that sort of thing works. There's the Body Corporate and Community Management Act. So that sits up here. That's the big daddy of them all. And under that, there's about 5 what we call regulation modules: accommodation, commercial, standard. Anybody else know any? Small schemes? Yep. And they're all slightly different. And it's part of our job to help the committee navigate through that so that they're operating in accordance with both the BCCMA and the regulation module that they actually act under. And as I was saying, with those minutes, etc., it's absolutely critical for transparency purposes that those minutes are recorded, so that any owner that's coming, or any agent or whatever that's coming in to do a search of the records, they can see all of the formal resolutions made by that body corporate. And that's one of our prime functions as well, is to ensure that obviously the records are up to date, so that everyone is fully aware of what's going on. So how and when is a committee formed? It's done normally at every single annual general meeting. The old committee falls off at the end of the meeting, new committee steps in. There are certain requirements on depending on the relevant regulation module, but it's absolutely critical that all bodies corporate are required to elect a committee annually. Now, if you just look at the standard module, the minimum requirement of the committee is 3 members. Right? The chair, secretary and treasurer positions must be filled. Now, one person can hold all of those when you have somebody as chair, somebody as secretary, treasurer, and then somebody as an ordinary member. You've got to have a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 7. And that excludes the resident unit manager and capital. We're additional. But as I said, we're non-voting. So you have a minimum of 3, maximum of 7 voting committee members. Now, when it comes to the actual roles, the chairperson must chair the meetings when they are in attendance. Unlike sporting clubs, tennis clubs, golf clubs, that type of thing, the chairperson in our industry does not have any casting vote. He's still got 1 vote. The secretary calls the meetings, takes minutes, receives voting papers, that type of thing. The treasurer reviews the financials, and ordinary committee members, they should probably change that term, it's a bit average, but they have exactly the same voting powers as the executive members of the committee. So there's no one person on the committee who has a stronger or louder voice than anybody else. Now, sometimes you get what we call emergency things happen. You get somebody phoning you on the weekend or on a Monday and say, oh, the hot water system's blown up or whatever. The committee does not have increased powers in the case of an emergency. That's absolutely critical. The committee just can't run off and do something. They can apply to the Office of the Commissioner for Body Corporate and Community Management for an interim order or an urgent order to say, yes, go ahead, proceed, do it, and then call me a year later. But that can take between 24 and 48 hours. Sometimes it's quicker. I might talk about how the committee might expedite a decision process in the best interest of the body corporate. There are sometimes, as you know, it's practical if there's a main entrance door to the complex and it's broken, you can't get in or out, right? So you say, do we have to go to a formal committee meeting or send out the vocal notice to everybody? That's going to take 7 days to get an answer. Clearly, that won't work. There are safety issues and all the rest of it at hand. So the legislation does provide that in those sort of circumstances, the committee can act by email or phone call. They can get enough committee members as practical to say, go ahead and get it fixed, and then that is viewed still as a formal resolution of the body corporate. Those minutes would be created and then confirmed at the next scheduled committee meeting. If the repair cost, let's say the hot water system does blow up or whatever, if it's above the committee's tender, the committee is not authorised to act even in an emergency. So you get tenants phoning up and saying, hey, we've got no hot water. Sorry, we'll get to it as soon as we can. We are bound by this. I know it's hard, And tenants' view of order is absolutely life essential, but the Commissioner's Office does not. Okay, so when it comes to Capital's role, primarily we act as an admin and secretarial support mechanism to the body corporate. And as I said earlier, we can only act under instruction from the committee or the body corporate in its totality, depending on the issue at hand. We work very closely with our committees, resident unit managers, lot owners, contractors, etc., to try and build strong communities. And part of our role as well is also provide advice on legislative requirements under the Body Corporate and Community Management Act 1997. When I first started in this business, I had to know one piece of legislation, Body Corporate and Community Management Act. That was it. Now there's just over 100 pieces of legislation impacting on bodies corporate. It's becoming nightmarish, but it's all good, and that's our role, is to keep the committees abreast of all those legislation. There's fire, there's safety, there's asbestos, it goes on and on. Backflow prevention devices, just about name it, pool safety certs, it's all there. And as I was saying, I've just touched on this, we must make sure that our bodies corporate are compliant under the Workplace and Work Health and Safety Act 2011, asbestos, insurance valuations, fire safety requirements, sinking fund forecasts, pool safety certificates, backflow prevention devices. There's a raft of things out there. And you might quite often hear from your tenants probably, what do Capital actually do for their money? We believe them so much. It's taking their money all the time. But at the end of the day, we've got about 415 agreed services, which is what our base fee covers. Basically, we have to actively implement the decisions of the body corporate. We've got to organise it and attend the annual general meeting. That includes distribution of the minutes, etc. Hold, use and supervise the use of the common seal. Most importantly, very importantly, to ensure the insurances are in place. Maintain the body corporate registers relating to the role. Keep the books and records, including financial statements. Prepare the budgets, calculate levies, issue the notices. Take care of all the inward and outward correspondence, provide general advice to the committee, and then of course follow our code of conduct. Now, I think the next slide we're going to move to is, I think it was touched on earlier about the our online website and the resource centre. There's a whole raft of forms on there that you can use for pet requests, air conditioning requests, maintenance requests, general improvements. I strongly urge you to advise your owners or use these yourself. It's a great, easy way to do it, and then it starts the formal paper trail. It's very, very, very consistent. Now, when it comes to contacting Capital, you're probably aware that we're not property managers. We very rarely go on site. We don't have the expertise to make decisions or pass judgment on maintenance issues or whatever. And whilst it's not the owner's responsibility to maintain the common property, because clearly that's the body corporate, it seems to be that generally this duty is delegated to yourselves and any on-site owner. So please, we're probably asking for your help in this one. When you're on site doing your routine inspections, if you notice something on the common property that just doesn't look right, there's a tree growing out of a gutter, or there's gutter falling off, or doesn't look like the gardens and grounds are being maintained, whatever, drop us an email and say, guys, because this will help your tenants as well, because they'll be living in a cleaner, safer environment, and all maintenance items are attended to quickly and efficiently, and it's got to help you as well. Thanks. And hopefully make the letting a little bit easier. And obviously, if there is a significant safety issue, the sooner we know about it, we can limit any potential liability to the body corporate. And as I was saying earlier, that potentially, if we maintain our buildings well, keep everything clean and safe, hopefully the vacancy rates improve, and you might get more rent as well, which is never a bad thing, hey? No, you don't want more room? You don't want more rent? No. Okay, and I think this is all stemming to, I think it probably potentially can enhance your reputation as well. We quite often get emails from contractors. I think an example up there, John from John's Property Management's report the garage door's not opening and requires a call.
and also sent a photo through of some graffiti and that sort of stuff. And as I was saying earlier, we really do ask your assistance in this one. If you do notice anything, you guys all carry your phones or iPads or whatever, take photos of your property reports and stuff like that. Is it asking too much? Please tell me if you can take a photo and flick through to us. So that way we can alert the committee and say, look, there's a potential issue here, what do you want us to do? So the sooner things get noticed and get fixed, I think the whole community, the whole complex is going to be better off for it. So basically I think what we're trying to do is that we work together to ensure the residents live in a well-kept and safe environment.